Welcome, everyone, to episode 65 of the Mindful Marketer livestream. And today's session is Friends and Benefits, How Successful Marketers Build Allies. We have a lot of great questions coming in today as well. We certainly hit a nerve on this one. So remember, we welcome all of you and would love to know if you have any questions. Tell us your questions in the chat and also tell us where you are from today. We have Stacy from New Jersey joining us. Hello, Stacy. Now, we're also going to be sharing this show across the Mindful Marketer podcast network. You can get this show wherever you get your favorite podcasts. So we will ask Toya to also put that here up on the screen so you know where to find us in the podcast universe. So in the spirit of Dana, which is a Sanskrit and Pali term for generosity, if you feel the Dana spirit, please go to your favorite podcast channel and leave us a review and follow us. Now on to our show. How are you securing your upward mobility in a very challenging hybrid world? Because for many senior marketers, building your skills are simply your table stakes for success. Building relationships is what it's all about. I was listening today to CNBC and they were interviewing the president and CEO of the New York City Partnership as we watch people in Manhattan returning to work. And she said, you know, if you want to get people back to work and if you want to have a great life, relationships are everything. That was the mic drop moment for me today and this week. And how do you build the right allies so you don't just have a great career, but a wonderful life? And that's why I'm thrilled today to have our guest, Morag Barrett, joining us, because her company, Skye Team, recently conducted a study of 500 executives. And the sobering news came back that 67% of the people surveyed said that they work with someone with whom they do not trust. So folks, we have work to do in the world of allyship. So before I welcome Morag to the stage, I also want to welcome Susie from Nova Scotia. We have Marie from the United Kingdom. We have Jenny Troutman joining us from Atlanta, Georgia. And we have Sydney from Utah. What a crowd we have today. This is fantastic. So let me tell you, Morag is the CEO of Skye Team in Colorado and has worked with well over 10,000 leaders to help them improve and optimize team performance. She's also the host of the People First podcast, and her third book is You, Me, We: Why We Need a Friend at Work. And her book comes out in October. I've already ordered my copies. And if you're staying with us today, stay till the end. You might be one of the winners of our book giveaways. So without further ado, let's welcome Morag. Hi, Morag.
Hi, Lisa. I'm so excited for our conversation. Thank you for that generous introduction.
I am too. I was so glad I got to hold one of your galley copies of the book when you and I were in our friendship circle in Nashville, Tennessee.
Yep.
I loved our gathering in Nashville just a couple weeks ago with 108 of our friends at work, known as the 100 Coaches.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just living and experiencing everything that we talk about in You, Me, We, and my first book, Cultivate. And yet they literally are right. I did an unboxing video, Lisa, and the adrenaline, because having invested 2 years of writing and preparing for the moment and more than a decade of the research and input from leaders to actually hold it is exhilarating. And then it's coupled with the imposter syndrome and nerves of, well, what if nobody likes it? What if they don't read it? So I'm turning that one down. But yes, You, Me, We, look at that. It's real. It's real. It's got pretty blue. You might like this for the branding. Look, it's got blue on the inside.
Look at this. It's
so there
beautiful,
you go.
Morag.
And we are honored to give a few secret advance copies away to those of you who are actively engaged in this conversation when Lisa and I give you a chance.
That's right. Yeah. Good luck trying to butt into this conversation, folks. I do want to say our friends and allies who have been with me for the last 65 shows, I want to give a shout out right now because they are my friends. We have Jenny from Atlanta. We have Todd from New York City. We have Bill from Portland, Oregon. And we have Ginger from Queens, New York. So these are some of the people that have been following and supporting my show for the last 2.5 years. And so they are my true allies. I do want your help, though, to start this off. You know me, I am a word nerd, as you know. And I'd love your help unpacking a couple of terms for me. What is the distinction you use in your book and with your clients between the word work friends and allies?
Okay, so I do use them interchangeably, and I actually talk about this in depth in Cultivate the Power of Winning Relationships, where I introduce what I called the relationship ecosystem and the concept of allies. So for me, your ally is your best friend at work. They're the person you turn to when you get that promotion or you close that amazing client or you achieve amazing results, and they celebrate with you. They're also the first person you turn to when we drop the ball, when we make a mistake, where I'm feeling the imposter syndrome. And they're the ones who don't just sit there and go, oh, Morag, that's tough, and leave you hanging. They're the ones who are going to say, okay, so how can I help? What are your next steps? And Lisa, they'll give you the kick in the pants when you need it. So a best friend at work is somebody who has your back, not just on the good days when it's easy, but especially on the tough days where we either need some tough love or some reassurance to stay in the game and continue to move forward together.
And boy, we all have needed that in the last 2.5 years. Tell me what you've noticed. You travel a lot more than I do. You visit a lot of clients around the world. How have these work friendships changed in the last 2.5 years that we need to be heightened to or sensitive to?
Oh, they have transformed dramatically. And I even know from my own personal experience, I mean, my colleagues, Eric and Ruby, with whom I co-authored You, Me, We, are my best friends at work through and through. And I know that but for those friendships, that level of trust, we would not have navigated the pandemic as, I'd like to say, effortlessly, but there were peaks and valleys on that journey without them. And we had an epidemic of loneliness before the pandemic, but when we've spent 2.5 years now working at a distance, what we're seeing is that has only exacerbated. And we're feeling a sense of disconnection from our colleagues. There is a lack of sense of team. And if I don't feel like you care about me, if the only time I see my boss or my colleagues is on a Zoom call when you're asking me, what am I doing, not how am I doing, then why are we surprised when creativity and innovation suffers, when we're seeing symptoms like the Great Resignation? Because you know what? I'm going to go and work somewhere and with someone where I have high trust, where I feel valued and cared for, where I can be my best, again, on the good days, but also vulnerable and ask for help, etc., on those tough days. So Our research, you touched on it earlier, 20% of those leaders report that they have no friends, not even one friend that they can call on in times of emergency. And that to me is heartbreaking, and it's impacting careers and it's impacting business results.
Well, I've told the CEO and not just Scott Osmond, but also Marshall Goldsmith numerous times that it was miraculous and wonderful that I was selected to join 100 coaches literally 60 days before the pandemic hit.
Mm-hmm.
Had I not savored those weekly Zoom calls where we got to have breakouts with each other and talk to each other and even meet outdoors when I went up to New York, I don't even want to know how my career and my business would have turned out without all of you being there saying, I got you, I can answer your question, or I just want to talk about my life right now. Just want to join one of the smaller groups. I want to also welcome a few more people, Morag, and then I want to welcome Elizabeth and another logophile, Jolene from New York, Patricia from beautiful Annapolis, Maryland, and a Namaskar message from Nishal in Mumbai, India. We continue to have people joining us. I want to post a question here for everyone to consider and answer, if you would, in the chat. The question for all of you today is, who is your number one ally right now at work and why? So this would be a great time to either mention their name or tell us why. How about you, Morag? Do you have a number one ally at work?
Well, it would be Eric, Ruby, and Jose on my team who have my back through no matter what. And so that has been transformational. But I've actually asked that question of thousands of leaders around the world. And it's interesting as you listen to the responses, and I'm waiting with bated breath to see who comes and what people share in the chat here. But invariably, the themes are, we rarely go first to how smart our colleague was, the person we would jump at the chance to work with again, or even, their technical competence. Those are table stakes when it comes to the world of work. Invariably, what we remember about our number one ally is how they made us feel. Maybe they gave us feedback that changed the course of our career. Maybe they saw potential in us that we didn't see in ourselves and gave us the opportunity on a project or a promotion that we hadn't considered. And that's the theme that comes through every single time. And so as you're thinking about who your allies are at work, both currently and those who've made a difference in the past, I leave you with a challenge. I dare you, I double dog dare you, but I challenge you after this show to send that person a message, whether it's in person in 3 dimensions because you're still working with them, or a LinkedIn message, a text message, an email, a message to the universe if they're no longer on the planet, that just says, hey, I was listening to The Mindful Marketer with Lisa and Morag. They were asking about allies and best colleagues, best bosses, and I thought of you, and here's why. And I guarantee you in that moment, you'll get goosebumps with the reply, but you've made a deposit, you've deepened that relationship, you've rekindled a relationship that maybe you haven't connected with. It is powerful and it takes you seconds. So go do it. You won't be disappointed.
Yes. And when we were together in Nashville, we had that ally conversation there, and Marshall challenged us and said, okay, at the break, I want you to go contact one of the people who has had a very significant positive impact on your life. Yeah. And I want you to tell them that specifically. He also said, it's better if you call them. If you cannot call them, at least send them a text and thank them and tell them how much of a positive difference they've made in your life. And if I look at all of the responses, we are getting a barrage of responses. Sukia mentions Andre because he is very resourceful. Ginger says it's her boss. Yeah. Sydney has mentioned her direct senior leadership because her direct senior leader, Emily, nurtures her in her role at work, but also her personal development as a whole person.
As a human. And
that's it. It's Sydney.
About bringing our human to work. And Sydney just summed it up so nicely there. It's not the job title. It's not the transaction of the work I'm doing. It is also about how I show up as a human and nourishing that whole self. So Sydney, thank you for sharing that comment.
Most definitely. Yes, Sydney joining us from Salt Lake City, Utah today. Yeah, that's great. So we've been getting some great stories, and Susie joining us from Canada had a great one too. She mentioned an ally whom we all know and love from 100 Coaches, Rhett. Mm-hmm. So Red Power, that's great. We have, it's very heartening to know that we are helping others remember what makes us all whole and happy beings. When, again, I'm going to upset somebody here today, as I usually do. We over-index in our society, in the Western world, on productivity. We focus, okay, can I get more Zoom meetings in today? Can I work smarter, and can I squeeze in more of whatever? But sometimes just that pause to say, thank you, Morag, for bailing me out with that CEO client a few months ago, can make all the difference in the world.
So we talk about that in the book, because from that research and the thousands of leaders that we've interviewed who've gone through our programs, we designed what we call the ally mindset profile. And that's the pinwheel you can see over my shoulder. But there are 5 practices, and we call them practices because they are daily habits. They are choices that inform how I need to show up for you, for me, so I don't just become a doormat, to ensure how are we successful together? And where I was going with that was around that whole idea of abundance and generosity being the foundational element. Because if we look at success as a scarce resource, then that tends to drive behaviors where it's me first. Can I get that promotion ahead of you? Can I win, you lose? We hoard information. It slows down collaboration and teamwork. So my mantra is that success isn't a scarce resource. Success is a shared resource. And if we can approach every conversation with curiosity as an opportunity to learn about you, to share my perspective, and then together understand where do we agree or even disagree, it's going to allow us to move forward more powerfully and faster together.
It really is. And I also want to caution people that you will not get your inspiration from an industry that has been taking a beating lately. Online dating. So there is, I just read an article where, for a long time, I thought online dating was the cat's meow. And I met my partner online. So full disclosure, I've had some great success with online dating. But lately, the algorithms of online dating only showcase and reward whatever they consider the top 5% most attractive catches of that platform. And what's worse is they're making more and more people feel inferior if they're not, in the top percentile. And so now we have a generation of mostly men who are saying, I'm okay just doing some online flirting. I'm going to go hang out in the metaverse and create a reasonable facsimile of myself. How do we prevent that from happening in the work world?
So there's lots of articles at the moment about toxic bosses. In fact, my newsletter this week, you can go find it on LinkedIn, starts with, is it time to break up with our work friends, which is the antithesis of actually what I'm saying. And here's the thing, you're going to find the exceptions to the rule. You're going to find the toxic bosses. And if we go looking for them, then it just gives us affinity confirmation bias that everybody's out to get us. So by starting with abundance and generosity, but that means understanding Morag's definition of success, my perspective, I can go looking for whether it's a romantic partner or a business partner or that next opportunity, but with clear guardrails of what I am or I am not willing to give up or a compromise on in terms of my values, and then overlaying that in the conversations and the partnerships that I have at work. And I've seen it transform relationships. I mean, connection and compassion is then the next one, which we heard from was it Stephanie or Sydney? There you go, Sydney. In terms of looking at the whole person, connection and compassion is not just me as a job title. You all see me as Morag Barrett, author of 3 books, get yours at your favorite retailer, leadership expert, keynote speaker. But if we don't take a moment to say, well, tell me more of your backstory, what you don't learn is 15 years in finance. I know my way around a balance sheet and a cash flow forecast. I was going to be an engineer. I've got a logical brain that is easily distracted by squirrels. But if we aren't that curious, then we aren't able to tap into the whole person like Sydney described. And if I build on that, I mean, Todd Church is there. I've met Todd, fabulous. Again, leadership thought leader, visual leadership is his book. But he talks about his best work ally left the company, later hired him as his new company and became his boss. and later had to lay me off, but still became #1 client.
Ooh.
And when we have, and that is, to me, is a great little mini case study of people say, well, we can't be friends at work because at some point I'm going to have to give you a performance review. What if I have to lay you off? Well, personally, I would rather be laid off by a friend who does it with compassion and empathy than some robotic, distant voice and we've seen the headlines, by email or video conference for whom I don't have a relationship. Relationships are everything, and you cannot be successful in business and life unless you are investing and deepening those relationships that matter.
And this relationship right here really matters a lot to me. It really does. And we can't do this in the metaverse, my friends. So I don't want you to all go out and strap on your VR headsets, okay? Stay here with us because we have each other, and we come back here on a regular basis on Fridays at 1:30 p.m. Eastern. I'm sitting down right now with Morag Barrett as a reminder to all of you, and our book giveaway is only about 12 minutes away. So stay with us. And I think everyone loved the comment you said about success is a shared resource.
Yes.
So take that in, everybody. It really is. I love that. And speaking of great audience members, we also received some advanced questions. One of the questions from Jenny in Atlanta, who is the CEO of her company, she asked us, what are 2 or 3 tips we can provide for building strong allies within our customer or our client accounts?
Oh, I love that. So great question. And it really goes to why is this book called You, Me, We? Why we all need a friend at work and how to show up as one. And the reason we have that second subtitle on how to show up as one is if you want to have an ally, you need to be an ally. So you have to go first. And that can be through how you choose to show up, the behaviors that you demonstrate, but even better, and this is where it can feel a little awkward because we're not used to doing this in the workplace, is one conversation at a time. So when you're sitting down with that client and you're talking about the engagement and the successes and misses, have the courage to also ask about the how you and your team are supporting them. What do they love about working with you? When they see your phone number come up on the phone, are they going, oh, great, it's Morag? Or are they going, oh, God, it's Morag. What does she want now? And that's why at Skye Team, 4 of our corporate values are around fun. Because life is too short to be, as I was earlier in my career, in my finance career, a very buttoned up British woman with a very professional mask and you never see the cracks. Life is too short for that. What I've learned is when we are vulnerable, when we do open up with our backstory and what's happening in our personal lives, when we ask about, like I went and saw The Music Man this week on Broadway. Oh, it was amazing. And it completely refilled what was an empty bucket of personal energy and motivation. But sharing that and then having a shared experience around a Broadway show that you may have gone, again, just gives us a micro step closer to being an ally, so that when we're working on renegotiating the contract, looking at the results from the campaign, it's easier to have those conversations because we've got that foundation of connection and compassion and trust that can take us anywhere we want to go. But you have to go first. That's the key. Choose.
Yeah. And I hate to circle back on the online dating, but I think it's a great analogy. You can't meet your love partner by hanging back and waiting for the phone to ring or waiting for someone to make the first move. Yes. You have to make the first move.
So in the book, we talk about 3 steps: look up, show up, step up. You've already done the first step or a version of it with the thinking about your best colleagues and what made them special. That's look up. It's what do you admire in others? And somebody commented here that one of their ally passed away. He was 72 and I miss him like he was a father. And it can have that impact. So my challenge to that LinkedIn user and to you is, But to whom are you an ally? If they're listening to this show, if I went to your colleagues, your teammates, and I said, think about your best colleagues, would they think about you? That's your legacy. So looking up is, what did I admire in the people who've made a difference for me? And then show up is about being intentional about how do I show up for the people who work with and around me? And where do I, Morag, need to turn the dial up on the chatty, energetic version? Or if I'm working with my executive coaching clients, I need to turn that down and maybe turn up the skeptical, curious, listening Morag. So I need to be thoughtful. And if we're too busy running on our hamster wheels, we don't. We just go one size fits all from endless Zoom and endless meeting to another. So look up. What is it that I'm trying to do? How do I feel in my presence? How do others feel? Question 2, am I being intentional about how I show up? Where do I need to turn the dial up or down? And then question 3 is stepping up and doing it. Like you said, Lisa, going first and giving yourself the grace and space to just do your best. And if you mess up, if I interrupt, if I go too fast, if I whatever, forgive myself, because the next meeting, the next day, whole new chance to start over again. But look up, show up, step up. That's how you become the role model and the ally you want to be for yourself. And in return, the ally and role model that others need to ensure their success. I'm getting goosebumps.
I know. I love that aphorism. I was going to talk to you about that today from your book. I just love look up, show up, and step up. I love it because our books are partner books. I just realized that you and I are not simply human allies, but now that I realize, stepping back, having read your book, our books are so complementary.
Yes.
The Mindful Marketer, I have a whole section around setting your intentions with your stakeholders and even more precisely your customers.
Yes.
And back to the question that Jenny had earlier, it's very tempting to do a lot of navel gazing during the pandemic. And now that we're trying to figure out and reconfigure our business cultures and everything, remember, the same rules can apply to your customers.
Absolutely. So as professional marketers, you're doing this naturally as you're building campaigns and brands for the products and services and the organizations you support. This is applying some of that same discipline to your personal brand, your leadership reputation, and the impact and legacy that you're creating. Because you can be the best marketer in the world, but if it comes at a cost, dead bodies and cleanup on aisle 13 behind you, if you're causing a wake of confusion and frustration, then something needs to change, because at some point that will become career limiting. And I noticed Todd put in here, if I may, Lisa, what did you say about quiet quitting? And I've just written another post about it. I hate that. The alliteration is nice, but I just hate it because the way quiet quitting is being positioned is that those of us, and I would include me, I have quiet quitted it over the last few weeks, are disloyal and unproductive, and it's a bad thing. Well, for me, quiet quitting, when I was lying on the patio outside on the deck looking at the clouds and buying my ticket to the Music Man as my response, is a reaction to us running fast, burnout, anxiety, and stress. And so when it comes to relationships, there are 4 questions we're always asking ourselves. Can I count on you to get your stuff done and back to me? Can I depend on you to go the extra mile, to point out the typo, to coach me as I go and present to the CEO? And those are transactional. That was my finance career. You do your stuff, I do mine, and we'll be okay. But in today's modern world, okay isn't enough. We need to also be focusing on the other 2 questions. Do I care about you? And do I trust you? And those are the transformational human element that you've all touched on, that if we aren't getting to, then we're going to see things like the bad side, the downside of quiet quitting, where I am doing just enough, but I'm not engaged in going the extra mile. So all of this, it doesn't matter what your widget, service, product is, it can be the best thing since sliced bread. But if I don't feel an emotional commitment to it, I'm not going to buy it. And the same goes with you as a colleague. even through the camera, we can do this. I think about the 100 coaches and 2 years of building the relationships. When we met in Nashville, Lisa, first time you and I have been in 3 dimensions together, it was like greeting a long lost friend, like family. So it can be done, but again, only if we look up from our to-do list, if we think about how we need to show up on camera or in person, and then if we step up and do it.
Yes. All of you, if you forget everything else from today's conversation, other than my long, sordid dating stories, remember that wonderful aphorism: look up, show up, and step up. I do love that, Morag. And I think we're also in a bit of a rebuilding mode right now. So let's get back to this word compassion. I invite everyone, be compassionate with yourself, because I am learning to rebuild my social muscles, getting away from the screens and in front of actual people. And so I want to make sure that we also give ourselves some grace and rebuild the trust in ourselves that we got this. And I walked into a networking event recently and I looked at a few people and I said, I am feeling really awkward. I don't know
like
how
being
much
a newbie, isn't it? Yeah.
it is. So let's allow ourselves to get back on our social bicycles. And we will have a couple of scrapes here and there, but we will fly again.
It reminds me of an article I wrote a while back. I think I'll put it in next week's newsletter, which is all about how do we start conversations and stop conversations in 3 dimensions. But even I've found it, my physical and mental stamina for in-person engagements is slightly, it's like me and my gym habit, it has slightly loosened, shall we say. So I need to step up and practice too. So you and I might be making this look easy, and people on the call may be going, oh, I wish I could be like that on a StreamYard LinkedIn Live. The key is you can. If you look up, show up, step up. Do it how you want to do it, not how Lisa and Morag does it, and we'll all be good.
Find your own mojo, my friends.
Yeah.
It is now time for our book giveaway, Morag. So my trusty producer, Toya, helped us with this. Our 2 winners today are, drum roll please, everyone watching, our first winner today is Sydney Adams. Sydney from Salt Lake City, thank you for joining us. And our second winner today is Cheryl Young. Cheryl and Sydney, send a note to lisa@lisanorell.com with your mailing address, and your books will be on the way when the book is launched just around the corner in October.
Actually, I'll give you an advanced secret copy because I have a couple in the house. So you send that information to Lisa. I'll get that mailed out to you within the next 2 weeks. You'll be part of the cool kid and ahead of the curve.
I love this. We're running 2 minutes over. Morag, thanks for being with us today. I know we could do this for a long time. We're going to have you back, I am sure, very soon. It's such a joy to see you. And we will talk with you again post-book launch. I'm sure it will be a wild success.
Thank you.
All the best, Morag. It is now time for the mindful moments. Here are the 3 things that I'm taking from today's conversation. And please put in the chat what you found was your greatest takeaway and benefit from today's conversation with Morag. The first that I love is that success is a shared resource. That is fantastic. So much built into that. It really is a team sport. Second is the aphorism, look up, show up, and step up. Step away from all your devices and your distractions. Show up for the people who matter to you. And finally, step up. You go first. Don't wait for your boss to recognize you. Don't wait for them to figure out your great superpowers. Tell them where you can be helpful as their ally. And finally, ask those 4 questions as you cultivate new allies. The first one is, can I count on you? Number 2, can I depend on you? Number 3, do I care about you? And to me, one of the most important ones is, do I trust you? A great session today. And again, congratulations to Cheryl and Sydney for winning our books today. Now, we've come to the end. We will be back on October 7th with Amy Barnard-Baughan, who is going to help us really address some of the tough moments we're facing in our economy and in the workforce today. She's going to give us the good news about bad news. How can you, as a marketing leader, create calm in the maelstrom known as our world right now? And she has a model that she'll unpack that's been used by Army generals as well as CEOs. So make sure you're back here 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time on October 7th. And make sure you go to themindfulmarketer.com to sign up for future know-ahead lists. We also do bonus shows from time to time, including one coming up with my friend Charlene Lee. So don't miss out. Sign up for the know-ahead list. So until October 7th or sooner, remember to look up and show up and step up with your allies and with us. We'll see you in October.